So, My Hero Academia. God, I feel like I've talked about this series to death. I probably won't make another video about it until the series concludes, but there is something I've wanted to discuss for a while now. And that something is the recently announced live-action film adaptation of the series. It seems to be almost a rite of passage nowadays with any anime. The live-action adaptation usually always being leagues below the original source material in quality. Heck, this isn't even exclusive to anime. Recently, Netflix acquired the rights for the adaptation, and I want to discuss what this film could end up looking like. Let's start with one of the biggest factors, the casting. It's no secret that Hollywood loves casting big industry names in roles in an attempt to increase sales, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened here. This joke fan poster is a good example of what I'm talking about. As much as I don't want this to happen with this adaptation, I can't deny how funny it would be to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson play All Might or Michael Cera play Deku. I think if they were going to cast anyone for this film, it should be Japanese actors. The story of My Hero takes place in Japan, and the majority of the cast are Japanese. I think it would be quite insensitive to whitewash the cast of this film. We get enough whitewashing in the anime itself, the last thing we want is to see this carry over to the film. The only way I can see the switch up of races working is if they change the setting to America, but that's just worse in terms of appropriation in my opinion. The location of the story I imagine will stay true to the source material. I can't imagine they'd change it from Japan to America or from UA to a different hero school, as it would contradict the story and ultimately hinder the adaptation. But I can't deny it would be quite interesting if they changed the location from UA to an American hero school and did something completely separate from the main story, similar to Vigilantes. The story of the adaptation is an interesting question. There's too much material in My Hero to be crammed into one movie, so I imagine the film would only cover one arc at the most, or cover the same amount of material as something like the spin-off One's Justice games. I think if they were to adapt anything, it should be the beginning of the story, or the first season. They could cover from chapter 1 all the way to the USJ arc. Mind you, they'd have to cut some corners and leave out a few things, but the anime does that all the time, so I don't see an issue with another adaptation of the source material doing that. I think it would be cool to see how moments like Deku in the entrance exam and All Might fighting the Nomu would look in live action. Personally, I'd love to see them adapt the sports festival fights, but I think that would be a lot to ask for. But hey, if this film does well, I can't see why they wouldn't make a sequel. A big question that I imagine is on everyone's mind is whether or not this adaptation will be good. And I'm sorry to break this to you, naive viewer, but probably not. And this isn't even me being cynical on the subgenre of anime adaptations either. Just look at one of Netflix's other anime adaptations, Cowboy Bebop. It was so mediocre that Netflix scrapped it after its first season. I'm not going to delve into it here, but my buddy Cartoonshi made a really good video covering it that I'll link down below. But I feel this live action adaptation of My Hero Academia is going to be terrible. Personally, I believe that Netflix have a lot of opportunity to make something good with the My Hero Academia franchise. We've seen time and time again Netflix pump out some good shows, even if they do end up getting cancelled. But I believe if Netflix wanted to make something decent with the property, then they should make an anime adaptation of the spin-off My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Vigilantes is a side story to My Hero Academia that takes place years before, so it's technically a prequel. It contains a lot of new characters that aren't in the anime, but also contains characters like All Might, Endeavor, and a couple of other pro heroes and villains. I think it would be pretty interesting if they adapted Vigilantes into an anime because it contains a lot of stuff that is relevant to the main story. Stain's entire backstory is contained within Vigilantes, and I think it would be cool if Netflix were the people to adapt it. I think a lot more people would be on board with this if Netflix were actually making an adaptation of something people cared about rather than a soulless live-action remake. And if the first season went well, they have a lot of material they can adapt. Personally, I've been hoping for an adaptation of Vigilantes for a while now, considering the anime is going to be ending soon. But if Netflix don't do it, I'm sure another anime studio will, and Netflix can continue making their terrible live-action remakes. That's just my opinion though. Believe it or not, I am hoping that this adaptation is good. I just don't have a lot of hope in it. If you're looking for a better live-action adaptation of the series, I'd recommend having a look at the My Hero Academia stage play. Sure, it's a bit silly and goofy, but it's still quite interesting and unique for the series. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out my podcast, What's the Buzz? I'm running that with my buddy Shay at the moment. I think it's really good so far, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and have yourselves a good one.